Welcome back. You're here with Goldberg. Today I wanted to discuss, I'm not trying to rehash this thing from 2 months ago because it was just silly internet drama, but rather mention how perhaps it says something about the manosphere at large. So, for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure you all do, Jack Murphy kind of blew up on the Sydney Watson show because she brought up this cuck article. And end of December, the right wing, the left wing, the feminists, the manosphere all had a field day. He's a cuck, he's a cuck. This struck me as a little odd because the article in question they were all citing to begin with, I didn't know about the videos, that had been around for years. You see, 2015. I had heard about it a couple of years back, and people were like, oh, wow, he's been exposed. Like, well, did you not think about maybe if a guy writes this article, maybe there is something to it? And this is really what matters because you have Android Dreambot Johnson, Jack Murphy betrayed men. He will have his content removed. Well, someone put in the comments section, I got to give them credit for this. I couldn't find it though. I don't know if it got deleted since then, but they were like, you call Jack Murphy, he said he's a cuck or whatever, and you've been attacking Rolly Tomaso for quite a few years now, yet there are still Rolly Tomaso videos on 21 Studios. And in fact, as of recording this video, yes, there is still Rolly Tomasi content. I don't know if that's a contractual obligation, or maybe it's because Tomasi has some clout, so it brings more views to them. But it's a little bit hypocritical if you're saying he's a fraud father, he betrayed men, but then you're still keeping him part of your circle if you have a choice. It's just like Donovan Sharp. A few years ago, everyone, Donovan Sharp's a great guy. Now he's been kind of blacklisted from the manosphere. It's almost as though as long as people help a particular individual profit or gain fame, their background doesn't really matter. And this guy, Jack Murphy, Goldman, whatever, he was very adept. I mean, he's not a low IQ guy. He's well educated. He's sort of attuned to Roosh B or
Mike Cernovich, Gorilla Mindset. Here's how it's like sleeping with a transsexual.
These are not some random clown on the internet who's ranting about women. I mean, they have gone to decent universities and they have a better grasp on how to plan and distribute. So in the case of Murphy, he was in the manosphere, self-improvement communities, and also conservatism. Claremont Institute, he wrote a pretty popular book on why people are voting for Trump even though they're Democrats. This leads me to suspect that if Murphy had just kept his cool with Sydney and laughed it off, he wouldn't have gone through this self-immolation. And I want to pose the question, how many of you are in fact Jack Murphys? No, I'm not suggesting that you're some kind of bisexual power bottom, although if you are, I guess fair dues. Rather, how many of you are involved in the manosphere, whether you're a content creator or just you're lapping up what they're putting out, what they're blowing out? You're doing so more because you need validation from other people than actually believing or wanting to live in this manner. All right? And we see a great deal of sort of just bizarre stuff going on. So just bear with me for a minute. I try to get everyone in the right order. I can remember some years back, probably over a decade, I stumbled on a website. It was this forum where this white dude is going into excruciating detail talking about his liaisons with Asian women in Vancouver. And it was almost like someone writing a novel, the way she looked, her height, her skin tone. We made sweet love in the shower, and this one was on the table. I will never touch another white woman in my life. And it almost makes you have to be kind of suspicious. You go, is he actually sleeping with the women, or is he going out and people watching and then writing descriptions and having all these fantasies? Much like Roosh B producing a banned book for almost every country he had been to. And I don't know how long they were, but to have enough content to write a book that's somewhat dense, you need to be probably spending more time observing than actually getting laid, right? Or there was a dude, he's associated with Fresh and Fit, Austin Durham, and he has a video where some guy is filming outside of the room where he's apparently having sex with this girl. I don't know if it was a girl, maybe it was Myron Gaines, I'm not going to judge. Essentially, and this goes to what CBP was talking about in a video, are you pursuing women because you actually want the experience, the orgasm, or is it more about getting attention and backslapping, or in the case of PUAs, maybe ass slapping or other things slapping, because you did it? this is a question no one really wants to broach because I guess it impacts their pride. Seeing these PUAs makes me harken back to this Arthurian fable, which I think I've brought up before, in that instance referencing the riddle of this story, which is quite black pill by itself. But essentially, the king meets with his sorcerer who appears to be invincible. And the guy says to him, if you don't break this riddle within a year, I'm going to cut your head off. So all the knights of the round table are sent to the four corners of the earth trying to discover what's the answer. And the year is almost up. They're getting desperate when they stumble across this lady of the lake, I believe. She says, I will give you the answer and also the source of the guy's power so you can defeat him. But in exchange, one of your knights has to marry this nasty hag. And so he's like, all right, time for one of you to man up. And I'm not sure if it's Bedivere, Lancelot, or Kay, but the dude has to settle and marry this nasty-looking chick, and he's depressed, he's sullen. Well, it turns out this girl has a secret. For half the day, she turns into a beautiful maiden, like one of your dreams. And she says to him, would you prefer that I be gorgeous during the day or at night? He responds with something I believe to be quite wise. He says, let it be at night when it's just the two of us together. I am not convinced that the average red pillar would actually take that option. They would want it during the day because they want the social credence. Even if they're wage slaving, they don't get to actually clap cheeks during the day. They would just do that because they want everyone, oh yeah, you're a real man. You're tapping that ass. That's right, man. It's pathetic. It's like the sex doesn't matter. The socialization aspect does. And I genuinely believe if you took one of these red pill guys, put them on some rural mountain location with a warm house, plenty of food, but no camera, no cell phone, no internet access, perhaps you get direct TV, although the signal is going to be spotty, and we're going to have at your service, she's got an apple bottom, huge ion cannons, beautiful, let's just say she's a blonde since a lot of dudes simp for that phenotype. She's ready to go at any time you desire. But you're the only one who gets to know about her and enjoy her. Many of these PUA dudes, nah, that wouldn't float their boat because they get high off of the men who are, oh yeah, you're so alpha, you're so amazing. They wouldn't enjoy that hot chick outside of the socialization aspect. And it makes me think, in my last job, I knew tangentially this dude. He was in his 60s. He had been married, but of course got divorced. Short guy, balding, smoked like a Turk, had a face like a walrus, essentially. Basically an incel in the United States. Well, he would talk about going down to DR, and one day he's like, oh yeah, I paid $350 and got this chick. And I was like, oh, she's going to be some trashy barrio girl. No. She had like this flawless, shiny caramel skin, nothing wrong with her body, beautiful face. And I don't know if she's really enthusiastic for Walrus, but Walrus is having better women than these guys who simp for an average chick just to claim it's game. It's like they're not willing to just come to the conclusion. And I haven't done P for P myself. I don't know if I would. But I'm honest enough to tell you, I think most dudes are going to get better quality and waste less time and have maintain their dignity doing that as opposed to trying to simp for some chick who doesn't really like them and just wants to manipulate them. And this brings me to a final example that really illustrates what we're talking about. This dude, Ken Peterson, went viral for all the wrong reasons. She's like, I was divorced, I was depressed, using porn. Then I went to the gym and I saw this blonde and I approached her, but she was engaged. But eventually she broke it off to be with me, and now we're married and we got a kid. Masculinity. There's a couple of problems here. One, his group is Men of Integrity, as opposed to the Criminal Order for Jack Murphy, and he went to West Point. So that's about supposedly high honor. You broke up another guy's relationship. That's not exactly a integritous thing to do. But more to the point, this girl accepted a ring and a proposal from a man, so she probably was sexually active with him, was ready to be with him for either the rest of her life or at least until she could collect that alimony payment. And she broke that off. So did it mean anything? And does any agreement mean stuff to her? And will she not do the same when another guy comes along who, tickles her fancy? I don't really know. She's okay. She has a good body. I don't think her face is that impressive, but you can just say I'm coping. I'm good with that. What has to be pointing out though is that he specifically went for the I stole another man's girl. He mentioned that. That would be something that you leave aside, but he wanted to make everyone understand I took another guy's girl. Why? Because in this manosphere nightmare, taking another man's girl is like, oh yeah, masculine. I'm only 5'3", but I stole her, so there's no excuse. And you can sell your silly products, and men will, pat you on the back. You're a real man. But it's not really something you should be celebrating or bragging about. So this is what happens. So many guys get caught up in this need for validation from other men, and they do stuff that's immoral or just not even in their own interest. Like, maybe this is a chick you would want to have sex with, but why would you marry her after she broke up an engagement with someone else and you've already been married and divorced? It seems like a a risky measure because hell, she might have just seen you as a guy who's easier to manipulate than the last one. Yeah, and maybe this dude, and that's the trick. Maybe he's playing 4D chess, and he's like, in reality, I broke up their engagement so he wouldn't get cucked like I will. Masculinity. Just be aware of who you are. Jack Murphy could have said, okay, he could have been honest and just, look, he's got weird sex stuff, do the whole Jack Donovan, androphilia, Mars, sword fights are masculine or whatever. But he didn't feel that was enough. He wanted to be accepted as the bold guy with a huge beard who's masculine and more of a man than you are. And you see the consequence. So figure out, do you want to put out all this dark triad male, I'm such an alpha, because that's who you are? Or is it just trying to get attention from people online, which over time, frankly, you'll probably end up depressed and you'll regret it. So pursue women because you want to, not because the internet is going to recognize you for that achievement.